Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are here to talk about the much anticipated Jeffree Star Concealer and Setting Powder. So if that is something you're interested in watching, then you are in the right place. We're about to get into it.
I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf.
Well guys, genuinely I can't think of a complexion product that has been more anticipated than this concealer. And not only are we all incredibly interested in what Jeffree Star considers to be a flawless complexion product, on top of that, he had a lot of drama that happened around this specific launch. We talked about it in the Blue Blood palette video where they had somebody come in and actually steal product, and one of the products that was stolen from him was a shade of this concealer, and it leaked out onto social media, which actually pushed up the launch date of this particular product. It wasn't supposed to come out until the end of either May or the beginning of May. I don't really remember, but I do know that it had to be pushed up because it was already leaked out online, which is a shame. I hate that for him. And you know, you put so much money into launch campaigns, you get everything mapped out, and then something like that happens, and I just think it's tragic. But we are going to take a look at the concealer today and see how it performs. In addition to that, we're also going to take a look at the setting powder. But before we get there, let's talk about these components. As always, Jeffree Star just goes over the top when it comes to his components and his packaging, and this is no exception. So the component itself comes in this little magic wand, very Sailor Moon-esque kind of vibe. I do think this is incredibly inventive. I do think it's beautiful. I love this crystal on the top. It does remind me of something. For those of you that don't remember, when the Greek Goddess collection came out from Lunar Beauty, it had this little diamond on the top that none of us had seen before. We all thought that was incredibly interesting, but man, oh man, this is something else. I actually love it. I think that this is incredibly creative. It's absolutely unique. They look stunning in like a little glass. If you have a couple of them sitting on your vanity, it's just gorgeous. The way that the crystal hits the light. I love the Jeffree Star logo on the top. He also has the Jeffree Star logo here on the side. And the concealer case itself is beveled acrylic. So it looks like beveled glass. Even around the bottom, you have this beveling that just catches the light. It makes the whole component just look stunning. So from a component perspective, this is an absolute win before we even get to the formula. But let's go ahead and take a close-up look at it just so you can see what it looks like in the light, and we're going to take a look at this doe foot applicator as well. The applicator itself reminds me of a liquid lipstick applicator where it has a hole in the middle, because liquid lipstick, you really want to get as much product on there as you can, because when you're doing a liquid lipstick, you don't want to have to continue to dunk into the component multiple times. You want to be able to just pop it out and do a whole lip and pop it back in. So that, I've seen that applicator in liquid lipsticks quite often, but I've never seen it in a concealer, I don't think, up until now, and I actually really like it. But let's take a look at the component and the applicator here. So Jeffree Star is claiming that you can make dark circles, spots, and other skin imperfections disappear before your very eyes with this Magic Star Concealer from Jeffree Star. Create this illusion of perfect skin with just a wave of your magic wand, as this weightless concealer delivers full, never cakey coverage. And I think that's kind of the inspiration behind this, is it's supposed to be like a magic product. Wave your wand and your dark circles will disappear. So I think that was where the inspiration came from. These are like little mini magic wands, thus the name Magic Concealer. Now, when talking about this formula itself, I will say, in playing around with this formula, it is incredibly lightweight. I think this might be the lightest weight concealer that I have ever tried. It's so lightweight that you genuinely really don't feel it on the skin. It's incredibly lightweight, but it's 20% pigment. So the temptation is going to be, because it is so lightweight, that you can, kind of put a lot on there, but you really don't need to. You really only need to use a very little bit, because a little bit goes a long way. Having said that, because you are using just a little bit at a time, or ideally you should use just a little bit at a time, I don't know if that's why there's only 3.5 mils of product in this concealer or not. It is an unusually small amount of concealer. Just for comparison, let's look at just a regular concealer tube. This is the NARS Creamy Radiant. This is 6 mils of product, literally double what's in the Jeffree Star concealer. One of the biggest complaints that I had with the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Away liquid concealer was that it had like just under 4 mils of product in it, and I thought that was really just a small amount of product considering the price of this concealer. That's one thing I can say about the Jeffree Star concealer. It's only $22, so I'm not sure if he went that route to keep the price more attainable for everybody, so that it wasn't a more expensive product, because I have to say, I am surprised that this is a $22 product, especially considering the component. This is not a stock component, so these are not components that are ready made. They bring them in, you pick out what component you like, and that's the component that they use to put your product in. This is a component that had to be made, and it had to be made in different parts. This little ferrule thing here was one part, the stars getting all stamped out was another, the beveled acrylic was another. There's a rod that, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a rod that runs down from the star down through this crystal. That was a separate component. So all of those components have to be made, and then the actual component has to be assembled, and that's where you get this gorgeous work of art, and all of that costs money. So if I had to guess, putting only 3.5 mils of product inside of this component was a judgment call when it came to keeping the price point down. So I think the decision came to, he really wanted the over-the-top component. Let's not put as much product in here, and let's get the price point down to $22. Now, it's going to be up to debate if you would rather have double the amount of product and then have to pay $45 for the concealer, because probably considering this component, that's what you would be stuck paying. And he's always promised that his products will be accessible, that he's not going to price himself out of the market and exclude a lot of people. So, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it is the right call, but just so you have a visual, this is 6 mils of product. This is the Wonder Beauty Dualist Concealer, where you have a matte concealer on this end, and then you have a radiant concealer on this end. This is understandable why this is only 3 mils of product, because there's actually 2 concealers here. But this is what 3 mils of product looks like. So this is 6 mils, a normal concealer, and then this is 3 mils of product. And this is basically what you're getting inside of here. So what you're seeing is basically an optical illusion. This is magnified, and the tube that runs down the middle of this acrylic component is quite skinny. Having said that, going back to the amount of product that you actually have to use, you really don't need to use that much. And let's be honest, how many of us actually go all the way through our concealer before we're buying another concealer? And at $22, you actually can afford to do that. Just FYI, this does have a 12-month shelf life. So from the time that you open it, you have a full year before you have to throw it out. And again, I think because you have to use so little to get a really good effect, I just don't think that you're going to blow through it as quickly as some of us might think that we are. All right, so let's take a look at the shades that I actually got. So what I did was I got one of the color correctors, which I got in peach. So I wanted to see how the color corrector did with concealing dark circles. So I got the peach, and then I also got 3 different colors, because I will say one thing about this shade range. He came out with 30 shades, which for an indie brand is pretty phenomenal, but he didn't just mindlessly come out with 30 shades. You know, there are some companies now, because coming out with a lot of shades is on trend, and that's as it should be. But a lot of companies are just throwing out 50 shades of foundation just to say that they have 50 shades, but they're not being very thoughtful when it comes to undertones and genuinely trying to match their consumers. That's where I think Jeffree Star really shines with this 30 shade collection. There was a lot of attention paid to undertones. Every undertone is incredibly different. So what I did was I got C7 and I got C13. C7 is the light to medium neutral, and C13 is the medium neutral. And I do sometimes have a little bit of an olivey undertone, mainly because I have a lot of Italian in my heritage, but there are not a lot of olive undertoned products out there. You're starting to see them come around a little bit more nowadays, but more often than not, there's not an olivey undertone, and the company actually get it right. I got the C8 because this is a light to medium olive undertone, and I feel like this is a shade that was actually done correctly. So let me go ahead and line up the shades for you here, just so that you guys can see what the shades look like in case you're thinking about getting your own. Maybe a shade of these will match one of you guys. So let's take a look at the swatches here. Alright, so now that we've looked at the component, we've talked about the undertones, the shade range, how much is actually inside of this, the bang that you're going to get for your buck. Let's talk about application. I tried to think of a way to do this video where I didn't sound like I was pandering or being like over the top with it, and I really can't think of a way to say this without just sounding cheesy. This is the best concealer that I have tried in 2019. Now, that's not to say that this is the best concealer I've ever tried in my entire life. There are other concealers that I like because of different things that they do for me. This is a phenomenal concealer, and I'll tell you one of the reasons why I say that. Because it isn't drying. One of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to concealers is that they set down too quickly and they're too drying. This is actually, he calls it a hydrating concealer. It's not really rocking any like hyaluronic acid or anything like that, but I do feel like he played with the formula enough to make sure that it's not a drying formula, and it's not. Number one. Number two, the finish of this formula is stunning. It is classified as a matte finish, but I think that when it dries down, it's more of a natural finish. I don't feel like it's a flat matte finish concealer. I actually have it on my eyes tonight. I have one of the lighter shades on my eyes tonight. I've just been playing around with them to see which ones that I like. I can honestly say this blends out easy, so easy. Probably the easiest blending concealer by far that I've ever tried. That I can say without any hesitation. When you put this on, because it is so it's so lightweight, it's so thin, but because of that 20% pigment, even though it's so lightweight and such a thin formula, the coverage that you get is amazing. It is a beautiful culmination of all the features and benefits that we want in a concealer all come together in this one product, and I think you guys, I think you guys are going to love it when you get your hands on it. If you are near a Morphe store, I would recommend that you guys go in there like ASAP and just play around, figure out what shade is yours. This is definitely worth the $22 spend. Let's take a look at applications so that you guys can actually see what I'm talking about. I'm going to start out with the peach here, just so that you guys can see how the peach offsets my dark circles. I really like the peach color corrector in this because I do feel like not only does it do an amazing job at covering up dark circles, but it also brightens the under eye, and I had no issues layering that with the concealer on top of it. So they layer beautifully. It just looks stunning. I'll show you guys the application here. So again, because of the 20% pigment that's in this formula, you're talking about a formula that's going to be able to camouflage blemishes, redness, dark spots, any kind of other imperfection that you want to hide on your face. So even on the face, it's going to be beautiful because you're going to be able to layer this beautifully on top of a foundation. Now again, they say that this is a hydrating formula that blends effortlessly, and I absolutely agree with that. It blends beautifully and it dries down to like a satin matte finish. It doesn't cake. It is crease resistant. It's not crease proof. He doesn't claim that it's crease proof. Again, any concealer that you don't set, if you've got texture under the eyes, then you know it's going to gather in your lines. But I will say that it is crease resistant, and once you set it, you don't even have to worry about creases at all. And the angled doe foot applicator that is in this concealer makes for really precise application of product. It just makes it a lot easier. The doe foot applicator is very fluffy. It has a lot of material on the end of it, so it feels very soft. That hole in the middle, again, just like when this applicator is used on a liquid lipstick, it holds a lot of product in the center. So you really just don't need that much. Now, in my application, I used a lot, and I ended up having to go back and pat a lot of that out with a beauty blender. This was like one of the first times that I was trying it out, just so that you guys could see my initial reaction. You really don't need that much. Now that I've played with the formula a lot, honestly, all I do is I just go 1, 2, 3, and I actually like it with a brush better, blending it out with any kind of smaller blending brush underneath the eyes, because I like the amount of coverage. When you bounce it with a damp beauty blender, you're kind of shearing the formula out a little bit, and you get a little bit less coverage when you do that. If you buff it out with a brush underneath the eye, you kind of keep that coverage intact, and I like that a little bit better. But again, to each his own. So if you want more of a natural finish, then you can go over it with a damp beauty blender, and it just blends out flawlessly. Like, you really don't have to do anything. The formula basically blends itself. And again, I really love the peach because it's perfect for color correcting for me and my skin tone. That peach is spot on. So for me, you guys, overall, these are absolute winners. The color corrector is stunning. It's absolutely worth it. And the concealers are stunning, and they're absolutely worth it. This was a home run as far as I'm concerned. And this makes me really excited to see what kind of foundation he's thinking about putting together, because if he stays in this vein of really high pigment with such a lightweight, like weightless formula, that's going to be like a dream foundation, especially one that's hydrating, that doesn't dry you out. That's like, you know, that's all of our dream foundation. So this product has me really excited for other complexion products that Jeffree Star has coming out in the near future. I'm really excited about that, but these are 100% Erica approved. Speaking of other complexion products, let's talk about the setting powder. So I have this in the color Topaz and in the color Beige, and this is a powder. I was hoping it wasn't going to be a talc based powder, but I will say talc is not the first ingredient. Mica is the first ingredient. So looking at the ingredients list, this seems to be a very interesting blend of like a talc and a mineral based powder put together in one, and I was very interested by that. The first thing I can tell you immediately right off the bat is this is like jet milled. This is one of the most finely milled powders that I've ever touched. It's incredibly finely milled, and there is a scent. It smells like, I don't know, it smells like candy. It's a sweet scent, but you can smell it when you first open the component, and you can smell it, when you're playing around with it, but it immediately dissipates, and you don't take that smell with you throughout the day, which, thank goodness, because I'm not a huge fan of smelling like candy all day long. And just FYI, the concealers are fragrance free, and both of these are cruelty free, vegan, and made in the USA as well. The powder, back to the powder, it's incredibly finely milled. It is not a flat matte powder. So this powder does not give you like a flat matte finish to the skin. This powder actually gives you a very natural finish on your skin that still allows some kind of glow to come through. I have it on my face tonight. I'll show you guys here what application of the powder look like, just so that you can see what I'm talking about. It just doesn't take all of the dimension out of your face by making your face really, really matte. It allows some shine to still come through. It just gives you, it's a matte powder that still gives you a glow, if that makes any sense. But it does, and it pulls it off beautifully. It gives you this beautiful airbrushed look. It minimizes your pores. It also smooths out fine lines and wrinkles, which I really, really like in a powder. And because the powder, again, is so lightweight, you can use it underneath the eyes, and you don't have to worry about it really drying out your under eyes as well. So let's look at application of the powder here. So they recommend that you can apply this with a damp beauty sponge or with a powder brush. You can use this to set underneath your eyes, or you can bake with it. You can do, the sides of your nose, the center of your forehead, or anywhere else. If you want an airbrushed effect, just press the powder into your skin, let it sit for a few minutes, and then dust off the excess, and you'll see that very kind of soft focus finish that it gives your skin. Again, this is a very silky, very ultra fine powder. I absolutely love it, and sometimes I'm not always a big fan of powder. This is also $22, and the component to this is also super cute. It's got the Jeffree Star logo here, and then it just has, like a typical sifter on the top, and you can twist this and close it and open it. I'm going to give you guys a close-up of what each of these tones look like in case you're thinking about getting a powder, just so that you know what the beige and the topaz looks like. Now the topaz it's almost like a banana powder, but there is a banana shade in his powder lineup, but it's really dark. I think that banana shade would look better on tan to deep skin tones. I think this is like the light version of that banana powder for more medium skin tones, and it really looks a lot lighter on the skin than it looks inside of the pan. But I would use this underneath the eyes to color correct, and then I would use the beige like all over my face to just set my makeup. So that's why I got these two specifically. But let's take a look at these components, and I'll let you guys actually look at the individual colors so that you can see what the colors look like too. So these are also cruelty-free and vegan as well. And again, the features of these: extra finely milled powder. It's going to give you a velvet matte finish, but again, it's not a flat matte finish. It does give you that kind of perfect skin finish, blurring your pores, fine lines, and wrinkles. They do have particles in here they're called soft focus particles, but they're basically light reflecting particles. That's what's going to bounce light off your face and help blur the look of imperfections. And the nice thing is that works on all skin types and all skin tones. And then of course they also make the claim that this is going to set your makeup all day and that it's not going to cake up on you and it's not going to crease on you. Now, because the talc was in this, I was very happy to see that it wasn't the #1 ingredient, but I was still a little worried that talc was in here. I was worried that it was going to cake up on me throughout the course of the day, but it doesn't, you guys. I am happy to report that this is a powder that doesn't cake. It doesn't cake like around my nose where powders will typically cake up on me. It'll be around my nose, my smile lines, and then it'll start getting really dry and cakey right underneath here. This doesn't do that. Now, if you have a lot of fine lines and wrinkles underneath your eyes like I do, the best way to set the concealer with this specific powder is to just get a little tiny bit on the end of your brush and just lightly brush it underneath the eye, and that's really all you have to do. Now, if you have larger pores like the directions say, what I recommend that you do is you actually press the powder in rolling motions like this with your brush into the areas where you have larger pores. Let it sit for just a few minutes. It says on here to let it sit for 5 minutes and then go over and dust it away. And what that does is, because this is such an ultra finely milled powder, is it allows the powder itself to settle. And once that powder settles into your pores, it just makes a very smooth canvas. And once it's all settled in there and then it actually starts melting together with your skin, then you can go through and go ahead and dust it away, and you'll have that filled in pore look. Whereas if you were to just dip this in here and then just fluff it all over your face, it's too light to be able to do that. You really want to focus on pressing this into the skin to get the full effect of the powder, because there's no weight to it. It's so finely milled that it doesn't weigh anything. So you really need to concentrate on your application with this powder. Underneath the eyes, do just a light dusting. The lightness of the weight works for you underneath the eyes. But when it comes to the face, if you really want that airbrushed, blurred, poreless look, then you want to press it into the skin and really focus on areas where you have large pores, fine lines and wrinkles, things like that, and it'll give you that nice, smooth look. Overall, I love the powders as well. This is also $22. This is just a standard size powder. You have 10 grams of powder in here, and that's pretty average. So for $22, I think this is a great buy as well. Honestly, you guys, both of these products are going to be Erica approved. Let me know what you guys think about these products. Do you guys think they were going to be this good? Are you guys going to get them? I am blown away. I assumed that Jeffree's products were going to be good. I assumed his complexion products were going to be really, really good. I did not expect this concealer to be as good as it is. I was very pleasantly surprised. I have a feeling this is going to be my new #1 until something comes along and replaces it. I absolutely love this concealer. The only thing that I have in the back of my head is I really like my Jouer concealer, but I love that because of all the skin loving ingredients that are in that concealer. I love having all that extra hyaluronic acid. I love having niacinamide and all of those good things that are in that Jouer formula. I love having that underneath my eyes in a concealer. So that's the only thing that this is missing, is that there's not really any like good for you ingredients in this formula. So that's the only reason why I would pick up the Jouer over this one. But when it comes to finish, performance, blendability, I think this one even maybe edges out the Jouer just a little bit. I'm really impressed with this one, guys. All right, listen, I hope you guys are having a great day. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and hit me up on my DMs on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Erica Approved. If you guys are new here, welcome. Feel free to hit the subscribe button before you leave. Other than that, you guys, I hope everybody is very happy and very healthy, and I will see you guys in my next video. Mwah.